Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know you're excited because I am. So, you know what that is pictured on your screen, none other than the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Mach-E. That's right. I told you right. And why is that? That's because we're talking about those Ford earnings. Look, maybe a day late. And I may be doing this at night here when I work at 5 a.m. We're posting it very late. I'm back to grinding for you. That's what I'm all about. I'm back here and I will grind. Let's talk about those Ford earnings. And you want to know why? Because, hey, I love talking about Ford. Let's just go right into it. Let's talk about the stock first, right? Initial interpretation of these earnings was actually pretty negative. We saw the stock fall a decent amount, actually, in the after hour session after they announced these earnings. Then it shot back up. Starting normal trading day was really in an upward trajectory. Then it just completely leveled out by the end of the day. I mean, this thing didn't move the entire day, which is crazy. I really expected it to go one way or the other. And when you see these results, it's shocking it didn't go a certain way. But, what can I tell you? These investors are crazy. No one has any idea what to do with anything. They stink. Um, they just don't know how to trade stocks. No one does. So let's take a look at these earnings. Why was that, such a mixed reaction here? What's going on? What's going on with this stock? Well, let's see. First, I take a peek at this headline and I say, wowzers, wowie zowie, oh my goodness, oh my dang. I say that. That's what I say when I look at this. And you want to know why? Because that looks like a beautiful beat on the top and bottom line. And the shares went down? Let's just take a further look, folks, okay? All right. From an EPS standpoint, 63 cents. It's a beat by 19 cents. That's a massive profit beat. Now, again, that is a non-GAAP line. We will be taking a look at the net income line as well. It's worth taking a look at because those can be significantly different. The non-GAAP and the GAAP line, significantly different. I typically will judge based off the GAAP line, a better indicator of actual net income. Now, the automotive revenues, now this is a segment that obviously, you know, that's what they make their revenues, but that makes sense. This is something that there were definitely fears about this, right? There were concerns about the recovery of the auto market, and let me just tell you, they posted a 21% year-over-year growth, 21.7. That $39 billion line, they beat by 1.67 billion. Now they were still expected to grow, but they weren't expected to grow by this much. We're talking about a difference of a easily there a 5 percentage point difference in the growth that we got, which is pretty significant when you're talking about 21%. So very nice beat there. So you see that, and that just looks great so far. Let's dig further down. Obviously, you need to take a look. Quarterly revenues also rose 20% year over year. Um, Overall to $41.5 billion. $1.8 billion in net income. That compares to a year ago loss of 3.1 billion. Are you kidding me? That is a line I love to see. And that's because again, last year was not a great year for them. They were really fleshing out this EV segment, specifically with the Mach-E, obviously in the all electric Ford F-150 Lightning, and it really put a massive damper on their net income line. And now to see that they posted actually a net income 1.8 billion is a really nice thing to see, right? Definitely means they're working on riding the ship and turning things around. Now their segment of EVs, and we'll get into that because I'm sure they will state it. The segment of EVs still not profitable. You saw how long it took Tesla to get profitable on EVs as well, and that's all they sold. So it's a business that takes a hot minute to get into. You have to get established, and from there, you can start making a profit. Something to consider. And what else? What's the third piece we always talk about on these earnings on this channel? It is the guidance. And they specifically throw in here, they have reaffirmed the full year guidance. Reaffirmed it. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That was Bernie Sanders? Remember when he said that's a Bernie Sanders quote. Um, I'll leave it at that. Anyways, so it's great because there's a lot of these companies that you're seeing getting hammered right now. Your Starbucks, AMD. You want to know why they got hammered? They did a great job on the earnings. Earnings were looking beautiful. They beat on top and bottom line. But then when the guidance piece of it came out, AMD said, well, we're not sure. We got a little bit of a mixed forecast here. We don't know what to expect. There's uncertainty. Same thing with Starbucks. We're uncertain, especially about our international growth. What's happening now? The stocks fall almost 10% today because of it. Okay. Guidance is a massive piece right now. It's a one of the main pieces that investors are looking at is how are you guiding? Now this one, look, it was neutral guidance. They just reaffirmed what they had, which in my eyes should be a positive one because we kind of baked in and priced in a negative expectation. But who am I to say? I don't have a clue what these people are talking about. Going into some further detail, see that headline, you're excited. Obviously, we started to fall first in the aftermarket session, then pre-market. Hey, it looked a little bit better. So again, a little bit further line. Ford Blue segment, traditional, just Ford, as is, $25.1 billion. And that's a lot due to price increases. We'll get into that as well, which is awesome. Adjusted EBIT massively over the estimate by nearly $1 billion, really $900 million over the estimate there, which is great. And vehicle shipments rose 9% year over year. That's also a great sign. We've seen a lot of issues even still now, kind of crazy when it comes to supply chain. And we still kind of are. They did announce as part of this, they're having kind of a shortage on the handles on the Ford F-150 Lightning. I believe is if I'm remembering correctly. So they're halting production while they're waiting on getting handles. How are we still having issues with this? Okay, look, we're 3 years out of the pandemic. Let's just chill out on calling. Blaming that for everything because we still are. Supply chain needs to be fixed, folks. Anyways, comments from Jim Farley, the CEO, worth mentioning. We're bringing Ford Plus to life by zeroing in on what distinct customers need and value the most. Ford Pro is leading the way with profitable growth, and our big investment in the iconic Ford Blue vehicle, your classic Fords here, and derivatives are winning with customers. Ford Model E's different approach to EVs, right? There we go. That is the Mustang Mach-E, is significantly reducing the cost of the first high-volume product while rapidly developing breakthrough next-generation vehicles from the ground up. Just talking about how EVs are going to be, the next big thing, and that's obviously their main player in the game right now. Besides that, all electric Ford F-150, that's going to be a big one for them. The Ford F-150 Lightning, that's going to be one. Reaffirm guidance looks great. Nothing crazy there. What is my next thing I look for? Oops, not the investor relations. Well, actually, yes, the investor relations page. And why? Because I'm looking at the press release. Exactly what we're going to look at. So what do they do here? They do break this down into 3 different segments. The Ford Blue, your iconic vehicles, classics. Ford Model E, the EVs, including the Lightning and the Mach-E right now, and then Ford Pro for commercial products and services. So again, we saw quarterly revenue rise massively. Great to see there. The net income line looked great. Ford Pro EBIT triples to $1.4 billion. Ford Blue EBIT doubled with margins both exceeding 10%. Now again, you see why they don't mention the Model E segment because that one's still going to be struggling here, right? That's plenty fine. We're okay with that. So, little chart here comparing, where we're at. Market share, they grew a little bit in terms of market share because their wholesale units grew a little bit larger. Obviously, we see revenue growth there, great. Net income line from a $3.1 billion loss to a $1.8 billion gain is massive. That's nearly $5 billion of change, which is awesome. Very good for those shareholders. And then same there. So, customers made Ford America's best-selling vehicle brand in the quarter. That's right, they did it. Um, that's right, I did it. Um, Net income, $1.1 billion, they mention here too. Um, Primarily attributable to the change in the mark-to-market value of their investment in Rivian. Obviously massive for them. I know they've reduced the stake in there obviously too, but they took advantage of some share price increase in Rivian to post a decent profit line. So not bad at all. Cash flow from operations at 2.8 billion is worth mentioning because that is fantastic to see, and we'll get into that balance sheet as well. The balance sheet is strong, too. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at these by segment. So your Ford Blue, obviously, as we mentioned, that's where the vast majority of your units transferred, or units shipped is going to be. Look at that. I mean, that's a massive piece of the business, right? Now the Model E segment, that's a small portion of the business. And then what I want to point down is when we get down to this EBIT line, the third one down, $722 million loss there, right? Now that's obviously something that's going to be consistent. They've openly stated they expect to lose $3 billion in that segment alone this year. Not looking good, right? It's just not a profitable segment right now, which is fine, but it's all right. So it's one that they are working on growing. You saw it with Tesla. Like I said, there are growing pains, and investors need to understand that's going to be part of the game. It's going to be fine. Um, so yeah, let's take a look. One thing worth mentioning. Um, so Ford Model E, which operates like a startup, like we said, rapidly developing that quarterly shipments of and revenues of EVs were limited due to production interruptions of their two popular vehicles there. That's kind of where we saw an issue there. Both of them, they kind of stopped production during the quarter to an extent there. So let's see. Let's just take a look at some other further information. What do I look at? Well, we show obviously we show the outlook there. Love to see that. But I want to look at the balance sheet on this one. They mentioned a strong balance sheet, and you know me, I'm a man who enjoys a nice balance sheet. I enjoy a balance sheet. So I love it. They do only give me a 3 months comparison, which is fine. Ford, I will accept it. From a total current asset standpoint, not much change here, right? 116 billion to 115, not really much of a change there. That's plenty fine. You don't see much of a difference in really many of these lines at all. Total assets in general, again, really really similar when you look quarter over quarter. There's not really much change here, which is good to see. Um, didn't fluctuate too much in too many segments by a rapid amount, so it's really nothing crazy to note there. Then, from a liability standpoint, this is where it looks like from a current liabilities they made a little bit of headwind here. And that's mostly because of this Ford credit segment. That line declined just a little bit there. So total current liabilities, they did decrease by about a billion, not a significant amount either. And your total liabilities in general, again, not crazy, increased by about $2 billion there. So overall, we see assets increased by about a billion and total liabilities increased by about 2 billion over the quarter. Not a significant change. Um, and overall, that puts your stockholder equity. Like to see it a little bit higher, but I understand, kind of where they're at. They're working on growing the business. It's not the most, heavily margined business, anyways. You don't earn the greatest profit margin just due to the auto industry. It's just not there. But total shareholder equity sitting at 42,000. Forget I said anything. 42 billion, 197 million dollars. Obviously, decent amount for the shareholders there too. That's just what I wanted to highlight. Look, forward earnings. Let me tell you what tell me what you think in the comments. I'm interested to hear from you now. I'm always the one doing the talking. Tell me what you think about these earnings. Do you like the company? Is the stock a buy? What do you think? I'm here for you. Hey, you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.